Is this your studio?
Well, this is my living room. So my studio actually, I don't know whether I'm allowed to say this, but I will anyway. Two people in my studio got COVID-19.
Oh,
Yeah. So my studio shut down. So I'm just in my living room, which is very cramped. But I don't mind it actually. I've adjusted pretty quickly.
we're all adjusting quickly, aren't we?
Yeah,
I'd like to learn a bit more about you, Jack.
sure. I'm an open book.
I know a little bit about you from the things that you've given away on your podcast, or the episodes that I've listened to anyway.
I'm a serial oversharer. That's yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I haven't heard anything too gruesome yet, but
Keep listening.
I heard you went to RMIT.
Yes, I
Yeah,
did.
but and how did you get to? I mean, where did it start for you before? Were you painting? Were you interested in art in high school?
Yeah,
How
I
did
mean,
art come into your life?
like most people that I've spoken to, at least, art drawing was just what I was doing since I could lift up a pencil, pretty much. And it's funny, I actually just moved house a couple of months ago, and part of that was culling all my stuff, and I found the mountains of drawings that I've done all through like childhood, and just monsters, just nothing but monsters eating each other, and we had a lot of like mountains of drawings of monsters. So yeah, always a drawer. Did first year. I mean, yeah, all through high school was doing drawing, and then you get that rude awakening when you go from being the best artist or drawer in your year to then going to university where everyone was the best drawer or painter in their year, and then all
Yeah,
of a sudden you're not so crash hot. So I struggled a bit at uni, to be completely honest. It really shaped who I am as an artist, and I probably wouldn't be an artist if I didn't endure the brutal critiques that that we're all subjected
yeah,
to.
right. So, but just to go back a little bit more, I mean, it's a big decision to make to do a fine art course. I mean, you can be a good drawer at school, but then to go and waste 3 years doing this ridiculous course called fine art, where you get no qualifications and
Yeah.
maybe you can teach afterwards. But why did you think that was a good idea? I mean, were you had you seen some glimpse of the artist's life, and you said that was for me?
It's kind of odd because we had a few different all through high school. We'd have guest artists come and talk, and pretty much every single one of them would say, "There's no money in art. It's nothing but a struggle. When you take in all the amount of money you spend on equipment, on paints, on canvases, there's very little profit, and any intelligent person would take that as a fair warning. But not, I definitely flirted with the idea of doing some kind of design course. I was thinking about that, but then ended up just doing art because I just enjoy it so much more. It really is that kind of freedom that you get within by
Yeah,
being an artist. That
freedom. Freedom's a big part of it, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so you went to RMIT and you did drawing, is that right?
Did drawing for the first year. I had Godwin Bradbeer, who was an amazing teacher. I've got nothing but respect for that guy in the style and his knowledge and everything of just the anatomy and everything. He was great, but I was just I almost dropped out every semester of my degree. I think there was a couple of semesters where I literally scratched through on 50% for one or two subjects. Yeah, it wasn't until probably the final semester of the final year that I got my creative mojo back and really became, stimulated by art and creativity again.
So you jumped ship to painting, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Jump
Or-
ship to painting, and it was probably Robin Kingston who really she just gave me a good old a butt kicking.
Yeah,
So
cool.
she basically said to me, I was dragging my feet every step of the way. I'm not may have guessed I wasn't the best student, but she just basically said, these paintings are great. They're not taking you too long. If you don't do 50 in the next 2 weeks of these small paintings, I'm going to fail you. So I had to do 50 small paintings, and then ended up getting a high distinction. And it was really that push, and also gave me a big surprised myself of actually being able to do 50 paintings in 2 weeks. That just, made me realize a bit more what I was capable of. So I have her to thank a lot for that.
And what sort of things were you painting then?
I was just painting landscapes from that European trip that I did. I think that was my main problem all through uni, is I had a lot of ability to draw and paint, but I had no idea what I wanted to make art about. And it took me a while for that to really show itself to me. So, yeah, I feel for people when they go through that, because I can really relate. It's
Yeah, absolutely. You can have all the ability in the world, but if you haven't got something to say, then
exactly.
It's very frustrating. So I think I heard you say that you were doing boring grey cityscapes at one point.
Did a fair bit of that.
And then you had a bit of an epiphany.
Yes, I did. As I said, I'm an open book. It just depends how PG-13 you want it to be. But basically, I mean, I would sit there not knowing what to paint and just walk around the city taking photos, painting these really grey, drab things. And then basically someone at my work convinced me to go to a music festival called Rainbow Serpent Festival. And, I should probably say this with caution. I'm not trying to promote any kind of illegal activity or anything, but basically I had a quite profound psychedelic experience at that music festival very cliche, I came back with a headband around my head. And I was... it basically just sparked my love of the world and nature, being out in the natural world, which was a beautiful setting for this festival, having these heightened kind of visuals that a psychedelic experience might provide, and just realizing that life is beautiful, not drab, so why not express it with colour? So that, in short, that's basically kind of what happened for me.
But that is really interesting, though. I mean, because lots of people have psychedelic experiences, and they're quite profound things, but they don't often then make psychedelic art their thing. But what I like about your work is, you can put it under the psychedelic label, but it's not your classic trip. Yeah. You don't look at it and say that's tripper art or whatever the genre is. It's kind of like a psychedelic romanticism, I guess. I would think.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because the romantics were always the artists that I was most drawn to, and I guess these kinds of ideas of the sublime and things like that, where there's a real kind of emotional reaction through the beauty of nature or something bigger. I just love the natural world as well. I've managed to turn my art practice into a great excuse to travel the world, try and seek out the most epic landscapes, beautiful natural environments as I can, claim that all on tax.
Yeah. It's one of the few perks of the job.
Yeah. And then, spend my studio time looking through and trying to recreate the feeling of those of that beauty that I felt and experienced.
It's a more universal form of communication then too, in terms to the more obviously sort of visionary sort of art, I guess it's called.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not. I mean, it's the sort of thing you could almost experience without any enhancements.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's not strictly. I think when I first began, I viewed my work as very psychedelic, but now not so much. I mean, that's the framework that sparked it all, but now I'm much more driven by realism, trying to, just see every painting that I'm trying to, it's a challenge, it's a set of challenges, how close you can get it to your reference image or your whatever you're trying to do. I mean, that's a huge driving source of inspiration for me, as well as kind of rooting, suggesting hints of heightened senses. Yeah, the psychedelic thing was really what sparked it, but now it's just become much more about nature.
Yeah, nature's great. There was something that I read on maybe on the James Macon Gallery website. It just struck me, the word surrender. It has something about surrender to nature.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my wife Yura helped me a lot with the wording of what I'm trying to get across, because I mean she does a lot of similar kind of ideas but in a completely different style, and so much of it is, you know, looking at nature as something a lot larger, almost like godlike, you know, almost this. I'm so bad with words, particularly with art speak. You'll have to forgive me.
Well, this is, I mean, that's the nature of your work too. It's trying to grasp beyond things that can be described in language. One of the other things that's is very distinctive about your landscapes is the lack of people in them.
Yeah.
That's obviously a decision you've made.
It is. I've always, on purpose, left out structures, except for maybe one exhibition that I had last year, which was based on Japan, which was a whole different kind of theme. But yeah, in general, it's the undisturbed nature, and I like the idea that it could be timeless as well. So not necessarily the work is timeless, but the subject matter could be past, future, particularly with the color schemes. It could be suggestive of other planets even. It could be suggestive of a toxic environment with green skies and things. Maybe color can dictate so much how something's read. So yeah, and I like playing between those. Is it a real place? Is it past? Is it future? Is it hostile? Is it friendly? Is it euphoric? But,
or is it? I mean, that sort of ambiguity is what makes art say new things to us every time we go back to it, I think, because you know, depending on your mood, depending on what you've seen or read or whatever, you can come back and look at a work of art and it can give you a new message. If there is that sort of ambiguity, a kind of channeled ambiguity, you know.
Yeah.
And that I guess is a sense of atemporality in the work because of those lack of humans. Well, humans, I mean, if they were wearing clothes, you'd be able to date it, wouldn't you? Or if there was a car, then that would be a certain car. You know, everything would be of a time period.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also, you know, once people are introduced, there's just a risk of it completely changing the meaning. To me, I just want it to be about the beauty and the mystery of the natural world. I hope that through my paintings I can give a bit of a break from the chaos of the world and the issues that we all have. And I guess that's kind of where I'm trying to go when I'm painting as well. It's just actually, I don't know if escapism is the right word, but just getting, you know, again, most of the content that I love film-wise and stuff, it's dark, you know. There's a lot of dark themes that I love explore, you know, watching through film, TV, even music. But, you know, what I want to put out there, I don't want to add to that darkness. You know, people do it better.
Yeah, no, that's an admirable idea. And you said you go to all these places as a
I made a
not as a tax dodge, but as a genuine seeking inspiration for your art.
I made a little rule for myself a bunch of years back to just, unless it's a particular commission that someone wanted done, but basically only paint places that you've experienced, because I think it's very easy to Google image, you know, the Himalayas or something extremely epic and things. But yeah, I mean that's the only way you can make it yours. You know, like I went to Monument Valley a few years ago in America. We did a big America trip, but I did actually paint the classical view of Monument Valley that you.
I saw it, but you had some Rorschach clouds above the top.
Yeah, exactly. But also going up close and being at the base of these giant jutting out rocks where you don't usually see people photograph those kinds of angles, and you know, you might as well just get it yourself, you know, and you're going to put more. Well, I'm going to put more feeling into the work.
I mean, as I've done both, and I probably will continue to do both. But it's definitely more meaningful to work from your own photographs.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that being said, I do use a lot of collaging when I'm making my images before I actually paint. So I will chop up skies and things, and I might superimpose pictures of different skyscapes and things that maybe I didn't actually take, but usually that's more for color combinations.
How do you do these collagey kind of preparatory works? What form?
Like a really kind of crass Photoshop skills. You know?
Right.
Yeah, I'll take the photos. I'll play around saturations, contrasts, color balances, there's a lot of actual planning before I will make the color combos. Put paint to canvas, and again, often you might take overcast. The day might just be overcast. The skies are greys, so you can just chop out the skies and add slightly more illuminating sky and things like that. And again, yeah, it's just a lot of playing. I don't have a strict method of how to plan, but the planning is a big help for me, particularly with getting those right combinations of color, because there's certain color combinations that I find that work really well, but then it's also the ratio of color. So you might have one work that's very muted, but just a small amount of pink to a large blue thing might just completely change it. But
yeah, sorry, there's the classic story of Turner going to visit Constable, and Constable was very pleased about this big landscape painting that he had, and Turner said it needs a little bit of red just there, and and Constable had to admit that he was right. It did. It just needed one little bit of red, and it brought the whole thing to life.
Yeah. Love that story.
Have you done any residencies or anything overseas, or have you just made your own kind of residencies on the road?
I did a residency in Berlin after university.
How was Berlin? Were you doing grey cityscapes then? Or?
I went to India before Berlin, and so I was painting psychedelic Indian landscapes, which in Berlin, the psychedelic art was not really celebrated, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, sorry.
Yeah, people are just like, one person was like, why are you doing psychedelia? Well, these are the reasons. And one other person was like, it's really brave that you're doing psychedelic because, it's just been completely done. So I was like, well, I'll try and take that as a compliment, but but I loved Berlin so much. I could easily live there, like half of Melbourne, I'm sure. That's gone over there for a period of time and not learnt the language, but it's a really exciting city.
So you've got a show coming up in October. Where's that?
That's at James Macon Gallery.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see whether people can go, but I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah, excited to kind of release it to the world. Yeah, this body of work's a bit more, less epic landscapes with big open views and more kind of confined foresty things, because I felt we're not really able to explore. So it's kind of about being a bit more, internal, I guess.
Right, not being able to see into the distance either, metaphorically. Yeah. Well, tell me whereabouts what are the locations that you're basing it on?
They're basically all, most of them are quite smoky landscapes, we drove through some controlled burning while we were in Beechworth a while ago. So I based a lot of them on these really kind of smoky, misty, in the middle of a deep Australian forest. So they're they're a little bit different, but I'm enjoying it, because a lot of my work is really high contrast and things, so it's quite fun to work with softer tones and more muted tones because of the smoke hides detail. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, cool. And so you've been using your lockdown time productively. Your podcast you're very disciplined with that. How often do you put out a new conversation?
So I do a new one every week. Again, that's just pretty much the model I've just been strict on. Just do not miss a week. So yeah, I think I've done maybe 45 now. So that's been just fun. That was just an excuse to meet everyone that I admire.
And it's a particularly good thing to do for an artist too who doesn't well, I'm just talking about myself. Sometimes I go for a long time without talking to anyone. So it sounds like a kind of really good mental health thing to do, to talk to other people more.
It has been. It's been, yeah, it's been a great way to motivate myself and hopefully motivate other creatives that can, kind of. It's just one of those things. It's like I've found, because I listen to podcasts, and so I think so many creatives listen to podcasts when they're doing what they do. I found a lot of art ones can often be a bit dry, so I just kind of wanted to have a bit more fun with it, So it's been a great fun project. It'd be nice to earn some money off it one day, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I just listened to your conversation with Stellark. That was great.
Yeah,
I mean, he's such a legendary artist, and
like, what a tripper! What a
yeah.
puts a ear on their arm. I mean, he came and did a talk at my high school, so I've been aware of his artwork and the things that he does for, since I was a teenager. But he's, I felt quite lucky that he said yes to that, because I've had a few people say no.
Oh, really?
In previous guests, because I've talked to a few weirdos, like some flat earthers and conspiracy theorists. So I was happy that I got in there with him. I was very grateful for that.
No. I think. Well, that's the other good thing with it's that you're broadening it out. So it's not just an art podcast. I think that's good, because nobody really talks to artists who. I mean, there's not many podcasts that aren't art podcasts who talk to artists, are there? Like you'll have, and maybe I'm not phrasing it well. Say someone like Mark Maron, he talks to a really wide range of people, and I particularly like when he talks to musicians. He seems to be really good at talking about music. He would never talk to a visual artist.
Yeah, the same. Like even I've noticed with Joe Rogan, which is probably one of the most popular pop culture-y ones. It's comedians, musicians, actors, but very, very, very rarely will you actually have a visual artist on there. So, yeah, it's nice. It's nice to hear from these people that.
Well, nice to include them in the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And art's art's so important for culture. I mean, if you go back to any time period of any cultural moment, one of the most defining things that will come into anyone's mind is the artwork of the era that will define the era. So, yeah, it's funny how...
Going all the way back. I mean, right to the beginning of our species.
Absolutely. So it is funny how that's kind of in this new wave of celebrating pop culture. It does seem a little bit like art. It's just been kept within this artist circle,
That's right.
There's art podcasts, and then there's other ones. There's not too much of a crossover.
No.
I mean, there is, but there's not much of a crossover. So,
no. It's always the art world wants people to come and look at us. But then there's this kind of standoffish, sometimes from some people. It's. I mean, that was one of the things that we really wanted to avoid with NotFair. We didn't want to have a private opening to celebrate the beginning. We just wanted to invite everyone, have, just no barriers. I mean, we started off in opposition to the art fair model. So we kind of wanted to be a much, much more open celebratory thing than the art fair. But we also wanted to be a little bit commercial too, because we wanted to find artists who we thought people would love. And why shouldn't an artist make money? Why shouldn't somebody be able to buy their work?
I couldn't agree more. I just feel like those kind of old models need to be readjusted or reevaluated, because there is this. I mean, I'm not pointing any fingers, but it's like, I mean, my art is much more commercial art. I'm not this groundbreaking conceptual person who's going to redefine art. I'm very well aware of that. But that doesn't make it any less. It's just a different lane. And
it's funny how we've got that in our brains, though. I mean, maybe that's one of the problems with art school, because it says, oh no, you've got to do something that no one's done before. I mean, I love your work, and one of the things I love about it is it's landscape based. Obviously, I love landscape. That was very, very considered very kind of old fashioned, especially when I started at art school. It was like, no, you can't do landscape painting anymore. You crazy?
Yeah, exactly. I had that exact same kind of resistance and
it's not about the landscape painting, is it? It's about communicating something about the world, about nature,
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
I mean, it happens to painting's just the form that the communication takes.
yeah. I mean, I think about that with landscape and also with the use of color. They're great ways you can, illustrate emotion. They're great ways of, I mean, I might have some really dark or dead trees and stuff might give a very, very different feeling than a sunset or something. And it is kind of those feelings that do instantly come through when you look at a landscape, rather than just it being a dated genre, I guess. With this body of work, making it could just look like a landscape, but for me, I'm trying to make the viewer feel a bit more confined, trying to make and like you said, I didn't even actually think about that. That's a great other thing of you can't see into the future. You can't see over these epic mountains. So there is this feel. I feel that reflects where we're at now, in a way.
It's been great chatting to you. Great to meet you, actually.
Yeah, really.
And
yeah,
look forward.
To have a podcast sometime if you'll come.
Absolutely. No, I'd love to. Love to do it. And I'd love to have a beer with you in reality sometime.
Yeah,
that'd be good. Alrighty.
Awesome, mate. Take care.
Yeah, you take care too. See ya.
Thanks. See ya.